Howdy folks, Alice Allams here, and let me tell you, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a well-crafted corner. It's the hallmark of a true artisan, the kind of detail that separates the wheat from the chaff, or in our case, the finely mitered joint from a pile of splinters. Now you might be thinking, Alice, cutting a corner, isn't that a bad thing? And normally you'd be right as rain, but in the world of woodworking, cutting a precise, clean corner is a thing of beauty, a testament to patience, skill, and the right tools for the job. Whether you're building a bookshelf to house your first editions or crafting a tiny rocking chair for a very discerning squirrel, mastering corner cuts will elevate your woodworking game. So grab your safety glasses, your favorite tape measure, and let's get down to business. Now I know what you're thinking, the hand saw. Isn't that a bit old-fashioned? Well, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. There's a certain honesty to using a hand saw, a connection between you, the tool, and the wood. First off, you want to make sure your saw is sharp. A dull saw is more dangerous than a hungry badger at a picnic. Once you've got a blade that could shave a whisker, carefully mark your cut line. Measure twice, cut once, that's the motto. Use a speed square to draw a crisp line across your wood, ensuring a perfect 90-degree angle. Now, with a steady hand and a deep breath, begin your cut, following that line like it's the most important line in the world. Start your cut gently, using your thumb as a guide to keep the saw steady. A little elbow grease and a keen eye, and you'll have a corner so sharp it could cut a man's pride. Now, if you're dealing with a lot of cuts, or you're after that factory-made precision, well, that's where the miter saw comes in. This tool is a real game changer, folks. It's like having a laser-guided chopping block that can make angled cuts with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. Before you even think about plugging this bad boy in, you need to make sure your saw is set up correctly. Check the blade angle, make sure it's square to the fence, and adjust the bevel if you're feeling fancy. Once you're all set up, clamp your workpiece securely to the fence, engage the safety guard, and with a deep breath and a steady hand, lower the blade. Let the saw do the work, don't force it. And just like that, you've got yourself a perfect 45-degree angle ready for some serious joinery. Now, sometimes you don't want a sharp corner, sometimes you want something a little softer, a little more inviting. That's where the router comes in, folks. This tool is all about curves and contours, adding a touch of elegance to your woodworking projects. First things first, you'll need to choose the right router bit for the job. For rounding corners, a round-over bit or a chamfer bit is what you're after. Once you've got your bit installed, adjust the depth of cut and secure your workpiece. Now, with a firm grip and a steady hand, guide the router along the edge of the wood, following the curve of the bit. And there you have it. A beautifully rounded corner, smooth as a baby's bottom. Now, cutting a corner is one thing, but what good is a perfectly cut piece of wood if it's not connected to anything? That's where joinery comes in, folks. A well-made joint is the backbone of any woodworking project, holding everything together with strength and stability. There are countless ways to join two pieces of wood, from simple butt joints to intricate dovetails. The key is to choose the right joint for the job, taking into consideration the strength requirements and the overall aesthetic you're going for. A well-executed dovetail joint is a thing of beauty, a testament to a woodworker's skill. But for beginners, I always recommend starting with something simple, like a butt joint reinforced with screws or a dowel joint. Remember, practice makes perfect, so don't be afraid to experiment and try different joinery techniques. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't share a few hard-earned tips to help you avoid some common woodworking pitfalls. Even the most experienced woodworker has a tale or two of a project gone awry, but fear not, with a little foresight and attention to detail, you can avoid these mistakes and keep your woodworking journey a joyous one. First off, let's talk about tear out. To prevent tear out, always use a sharp blade and support the wood properly, especially when cutting with a saw or a router. Another common mistake is burning the wood, especially when using power tools like routers and sanders. To prevent burning, keep the tool moving at a steady pace and avoid dwelling in one spot for too long. Gap 3S. Now that we've covered the basics, let's dive into some advanced corner cutting techniques that will elevate your woodworking projects. These methods might take a bit more practice, but the results are well worth the effort. First up, let's talk about the miter joint. This technique is perfect for creating seamless corners on picture frames, boxes and trim work. To achieve a flawless miter joint, you'll need a miter saw or a miter box and a back saw. Ensure your angles are precise by using a digital angle gauge, and always test fit your joints before gluing. Next, we have the dovetail joint, a hallmark of fine craftsmanship. This joint not only looks beautiful, but also provides exceptional strength. While traditional hand-cut dovetails require skill and patience, a dovetail jig can simplify the process significantly. Set up your router and jig according to the manufacturer's instructions, and take your time to ensure each tail and pin fit snugly together. Lastly, let's explore the secret of the splined miter joint. This technique involves cutting a slot into the mitered corner and inserting a spline, usually made from a contrasting wood species. Not only does this add visual interest, but it also reinforces the joint. You'll need a table saw or a router table to cut the spline slots accurately. With these advanced techniques in your arsenal, you'll be able to tackle more complex projects and impress even the most discerning woodworking enthusiasts. Remember, practice makes perfect, so don't be afraid to experiment and refine your skills. Happy woodworking. Gap 3S. Now that we've tackled advanced corner cutting techniques, let's move on to the often overlooked but equally crucial stage of woodworking: finishing touches and polishing. This is where your project truly comes to life, showcasing the beauty of the wood and the craftsmanship you've poured into it. First, let's talk about sanding. Start with a coarse grit sandpaper to remove any rough spots or tool marks. Gradually work your way up to finer grits, ensuring a smooth, even surface. Remember, the key to a flawless finish is patience and attention to detail. Use a sanding block or an orbital sander for larger surfaces, and hand sand intricate areas to maintain their shape. Next, it's time to apply the finish. There are several options to choose from, including oils, varnishes and lacquers. Each has its own unique properties and application methods. For a natural look, consider using a penetrating oil like tung or linseed oil. These finishes soak into the wood, enhancing its natural grain and providing a subtle sheen. Apply with a clean cloth, following the wood grain, and allow it to penetrate before wiping off the excess. Multiple coats may be necessary for optimal results. For a more durable, protective finish, varnishes and lacquers are excellent choices. These finishes form a hard, protective layer on the surface of the wood, shielding it from moisture and wear. Use a high-quality brush or a spray gun for even application, and sand lightly between coats to ensure a smooth, professional finish. Finally, let's discuss polishing. Once your finish is fully cured, use a fine polishing compound and a soft cloth to buff the surface to a high shine. This final step not only enhances the appearance of your project, but also provides additional protection. With these finishing touches and polishing techniques, your woodworking projects will not only be structurally sound, but also visually stunning. Remember, the devil is in the details, so take your time and enjoy the process. Happy finishing. And there you have it, folks. Now you're well on your way to becoming a corner cutting connoisseur. Remember, woodworking is a journey, not a destination. So take your time, be patient, and enjoy the process. Now, get out there, build something extraordinary, and remember, the only corners you should be cutting in life are the ones on your woodworking projects. Because when it comes to integrity, craftsmanship, and a good, honest day's work, there's no room for shortcuts. Until next time, this is Alice Allams reminding you to always measure twice, cut once, and keep your sawdust in your workshop, not your britches.